6 weeks. It takes 6 weeks to form a habit, is what they say. You apply yourself consistently for 6 weeks, and then all of a sudden, the habit becomes a lot easier to do over time. That's what I tried with the one take series this semester. What I try to do, for those of you that are new, I tried to re-invoke something that I used to do a long time ago that used to work, and that I used to stay consistent by, called the one take series, where I get one chance to reflect on the day, no second chances, no third chances, one take and one take only. And at the 35-day mark, I stopped doing one take for a hot minute, for about basically 2 months, a little over 2 months, whatever the difference is between 36 and 98, which is 62. Yeah, 62 days, which is 9 weeks. That's how long I've taken a break. Life gets busy, but at the end of the day, there really isn't any excuses, and there's just a lot to go over. So let's go over it. So pretty much, So back to the normal intro, okay? Season 5, episode 36 through 98, take 1. What is good, everybody? My name is Jake, and welcome back to the One Take series, where we get one chance to reflect on the day, no second chances, no third chances, one take and one take only. The reason why I'm getting back into one take, you may be asking, well, Jake, at this point there's 98. You're 98 episodes in. Like, what is the point of rekindling this if you basically only have 3 weeks left in the semester? And I'll tell you why. Because last semester, I also tried to invoke one take then, and I did a similar thing where I took a break for a week, and then I uploaded an episode. Well, I didn't even get to upload, but I got to an episode that I covered the whole week for, and then afterwards I stopped making it all together. And I just kind of figured, well, I stopped making it at one point, and then there's no reason to continue for the rest of it. Well, let's change the narrative on that, okay? Because it doesn't matter how many times you fall down, right? We all know that saying. It's about how many times you get back up. And this is very a moment where we're trying to get back up on our feet. So I'm going to cover a lot of stuff because there's a lot of stuff to go over. So I basically divided it into 5 different sections because I feel like they distinguish themselves into different bits. And then I'm going to also talk about just different things, because the main thing that you're going to notice is that, unfortunately, I've basically had to push everything else off to the side, which I have been doing things. So to recap the 10 things, let me see if I can even write them down. Let's see. I got a bunch of colored markers, by the way, so that's pretty sick. But basically, if we look at the 10 things that I wanted to prioritize this semester, right? It was God. It was, I know there was academics, that was one of them. I forgot the order of them, but then there was work, then there was internships, which I might have grouped in the same category as research, potentially, maybe not. Then there was, I know there was Big Brother for a fact. Let's see, there was music, that was another one. There was gym, that's the one I was forgetting. Let me see, okay. That's how many, that's 8, okay, that's not bad. What else was there? There was God, academics, work, internships, research, Big Brother, music, gym. The fact that I forgot 2 of my objectives, that's not a very good sign. I did not watch any things before this, so maybe I can just look it up. I feel like I'd be able to just look it up. There was music, gym, and then I know there was stuff at the bottom. I'm gonna, you know what, this is crazy. I'm gonna pull up one of my videos. I need to search up YouTube real quick, but I unironically need to look at my own videos to see what my objectives were. That's how far I've gotten. But you're gonna notice that essentially, unfortunately, I did what I did not want to do this semester, which is I had to prioritize my academics. And there really wasn't another option. There really wasn't. It was one of the busiest semesters that I've ever had, for sure. Let's see, Jake and one take. I'm telling you, like, this semester, it has required, unfortunately, as much as I don't want to admit it, it really has required all of my attention towards academics, even if I don't really want it to be. So let's see, there was there was the research, there was work, there was internships, there was academics, gym, Christ. There was one take that was something, and then sleep. Yeah, I mean, who has time for sleep? I mean, come on. So let's see. Basically, what is it? Okay. One take, and then sleep. We'll be back to our normal setup, provided that I actually do this tomorrow. Which, yeah, I'm going to try and do it tomorrow because I actually want to stay consistent with this. I have no excuses from here on out. So basically, yeah, I basically want to divide this up into 5 sections, and I'm going to go through each of them, okay? So, pretty much, let me tell you how this semester, I guess, or what this semester revolved around, right? Because essentially, the situation that I was put in, I'm trying to find like a good marker that would go with this. Maybe the green one. We could do the green one. Maybe I could do like different things for different colors. That would be fun. So, basically, my whole semester revolved around a couple of things, okay? One, because I'm mainly going to be talking about academics, okay? There's a few things, okay? One, progress is being made in the music department. I will say, let's just go down the list. Let's go down the list. Sorry, I'm kind of like going all over the place right now. It's just like, it's been a while. Like, I need to get back into the swing of things. But with God, He's been on my mind daily at this point. He has been on my mind daily. However, I've not been getting into His Word daily. In fact, I don't think I've even gotten into His Word other than that time that one friend came up and basically talked to me about reading the Bible with intention. Maybe I've opened it like once or twice, but unfortunately, it's just, I'm bad at it. I'm really bad, and I've fallen back into a lot of old habits that I'm not proud of. So, if we're doing the old X method of like whether or not I feel like we've made progress, that's going to be the overall thing. X, okay? Academics, that's literally been like the only thing on my mind. If there was anything else that's been on my mind, I would say that that's got to be it for sure. And then we have, we have work, which I've been doing semi-consistently. I haven't been able to, and you're going to see why in a little bit. But that one's been okay. Internships, not yet. However, I plan on kind of like definitely working on it a little bit more this week, just kind of before I go into winter break and stuff like that. Research, pretty much after I went in that one time, haven't really gotten back to it. And I plan on doing it a lot more next semester, and I'll probably try and like go in, just like I'll try and find times to go in because I definitely want to get back into it, or at least let the assistants and teachers know, hey, I still am interested in doing research. I'm really sorry that I haven't gotten too into it. It's just because I was busy this semester, right? And I'm, there's a lot of stuff that we need to cover. Oh my gosh, okay. Big Brother, I'm gonna mark as no, honestly. Which, I mean, that's not like the biggest shame in the world. It's not like a loss that I haven't been like crazy on it. But the thing with Big Brother is that obviously you guys know that I finished 4 at this point. But basically started 5, haven't finished 5 yet. So I mean, at this point, I'll be lucky if I even finish 6, which that is the main one that I want to finish before I go over break and my parents show me Big Brother 10. But nonetheless, it is what it is at this point. It's not really too big of a loss that we haven't watched it. It's just a little unfortunate because I thought I would. Let me see, and then we have music, which I'm gonna mark music as a yes because if there's anything in my free time that I've been making progress in, I'm gonna say yes on music for sure. And I'm honestly also gonna say yes to the gym because even though in like the first part of it I haven't been paying too much attention to it. As of late, I have been going to the gym a lot more consistently, and I am proud of myself for that. One take, I mean, we already know the answer there. And then we have sleep, which is like sometimes. It's like sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not. So overall, I'm glad that this isn't an exam because otherwise I would just get 4 out of 10 on that, considering that orange means half credit. So now that we have all of that taken care of, we can get into the meat of what we're really trying to cover here, okay? The 5 sections. Section number 1, episodes 36 to 42. First of all, before I do anything, I realized episodes. Come on, Jake. You're an engineer. You gotta make things plural when they are plural. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, my perfectionist attributes aside, 36 to 42. Okay, I'm curious like how long it's actually taking me to like get to the point. Okay, not including the stuff I have to edit out. 17 points. And by the way, like 17 minutes. By the way, when I say edit, usually what I do is I start recording before I set up the camera and before I set up all this stuff. So it's probably going to be around maybe like 12 minutes that I've just been rambling for no reason. But anyways, okay, lock in. 36 to 42. I'm going to call dead time. Okay, and the reason why is because this was the last week in a while where like absolutely this was like the I don't even know how to describe it. Okay, you know what? The easiest way to describe it, okay, is with a calendar, okay? I'm going to draw one really quick. So basically just to put in perspective, right? The 9 weeks that I've been gone, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9, right? So basically how my exams looked specifically, because this is going to put everything that I have been putting off and everything over here and everything that I've just been talking about and why I seem so scatterbrained is going to make a lot more sense after I show you guys my schedule, okay? Because I actually have a really good reason. Every time I shade something in, by the way, this is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday, okay, to put in perspective. And you know what, just for the sake of it, because people at home already know, people that know me in real life already know what I mean by this, I'm going to throw in Saturday and Sunday for the fun of it. Just for the fun of it. They already know why. Okay? So, if we went down, we labeled the weeks, each one that I've been gone, right? 1 through 9. So, week 1, nothing was going on, right? That's one of the few times where I didn't have anything exams / important, by the way. When I say every time I shade something in, get this. Every time I shade something in, it means that something important was going on that day. Or specifically either an exam or something that would literally impact my future, okay? Not including canon events, I'm talking purely work life, okay? This isn't even including the personal stuff, which I've yet to get to, okay? Nothing during the first week. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of the second week. Third week. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Fourth week. Friday. A little bit of a break. 5 and 6. Okay, a little bit of a break. Nothing there. And then we get to 7. And I'm already going to spoil it for you. I don't even care. Proceeding, I didn't already talk about it before. Hell in a hell. It's very true. Episodes 80 through 89 are going to be called Hell and a Half Week. Because I kid you fucking not. You get to week 7. For reference, Veterans Day, if I color that in, this is Veterans Day right here. This little shade of green, Tuesday on the 7th week. That's Veterans Day. I kid you fucking not. I'm not even joking. Exam on Wednesday, exam on Thursday, exam on Saturday, exam on Sunday, exam on Monday, exam on Tuesday, exam on Thursday, exam on Friday. Do you see why I didn't have time for one take? Do you understand the stuff that I had to go through this semester just based off this alone? And then naturally, to fill in the gaps, the rest of it, thankfully no other exams after that, but my gosh, that's Thanksgiving break. 8 exams, not 8 exams, 6 exams in 10 days, with one specifically being a weekend take-home exam. Seriously, it's ridiculous. So, basically, first we're going to start here, okay? Let's just start with this first week. Dead time, to be honest, I don't even remember what the fuck happened, okay? All I remember is that I was trying to procrastinate. I procrastinated a little bit with Mario Kart Wii, and then essentially what happened is that God said, Jake, Mario Kart Wii is getting to be an addiction for you. I'm going to cut it out of your life. And so basically, he did something to the Wi-Fi or whatever to where the Wi-Fi still works, but I can't use my Wii or whatever, which, I mean, fine. You know, if he wants me to cut it off, he wants me to cut it off. That's all that it is, right? So basically, that encouraged me to study for my next week, because if I am being honest, like, nothing else important happened during that week. I cannot name like a single other important thing that happened. The only other two things that I'm going to mention that you're going to see, that you're not going to see, I guess, here, that I'm not going to cover is one, the one guy that I was starting the one mini music industry on our campus here with. I had to cut him off. I really did. Unfortunately, what happened is, I mean, I had a studio session with him, okay, partway through. I want to say it was maybe here, third week? It was either week 2 or week 3. It was one of those weeks. Basically, what ended up happening is that, I mean, we had a studio session, and it was pretty good. But then later on, we were trying to get, like, a writing workshop thing for the club that was, like, around this area, roughly. And basically, maybe week 5. And basically, me, him, and then like one other guy, basically, we basically were trying to organize that, but then we ended up making a song. We ended up kind of collabing on something a little bit, just like writing lyrics to one of the guy's beats. And so I think it's fire. I did end up writing it, but I just kind of like, I mean, I already knew he was kind of like being rude, like kind of a little bit, like just like the way that he came off, like I can understand how he would rub people the wrong way. And just the more time that goes on, like I've been trying to ignore it, truth be told, but like the more time that goes on just like rubbed me the wrong way even more. Specifically, it got to a point where I need to take a drink of my water real quick. Basically what happened was he's a pretty political guy. I mean, honestly, if he doesn't make it in music, I will know exactly why. It's because he prioritized politics over his career. It's pretty much a thing of he's extremely left to the point where the first major red flag, like, because he's been setting up little red flags, but I'm like, okay, there's small enough to where I can ignore him. You know, I can just like almost like I can get past that and just see him as like a coworker of mine, of just like, okay, we can like your agenda, my agenda doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter that you're a leftist, it doesn't matter that I'm Christian. We can just still like kind of like coexist, right? So the first thing is like he kept throwing initially like a little bit like of passes at like the idea of Christianity or at Jesus, and it's like, okay, like that's kind of weird. Like, why would you already do that to begin with, right? It's not even the real red flag. The second thing was that he tried to start a new type of party on campus, something about trying to like reinvent the Republican Party or some shit, which is like, okay, now you're just getting into like why are you trying to involve me in this? And like this is the thing too of like with the original hip hop club that was on our campus, what you need to know is basically the fact that the one thing that I did not want to talk about in hip hop club was politics. That was the one thing. And everybody, that's what annoyed me about the hip hop club specifically originally, was that literally everybody just couldn't get politics off their mind. They couldn't stop talking about politics. And I'm like, I do not want to be surrounded by politics 24/7. I don't want that in my info in my head. The only reason I will ever bring up politics is if it's something that I think is genuinely concerning, like I did with the Charlie Kirk video. I will, like, if it is genuinely concerning or threatening to either me or people that I know, I will make like some sort of comment about it, right? But it was just like constant. It was on and on and on. It was like a leftist agenda, and I already lean like more right than left. So it's just a thing of like, oh my gosh, dude, like why? And so the fact that you're trying to create a whole new party, that you're trying to call the New Republicans, however, you're pushing extremely leftist ideology. I'm like, okay, like what are we doing? And he sends me that. It's like, you spent all this time around me in hip hop club. You should know that I don't like talking about politics. And yet you're out here trying to get me on some forum and trying to join some party about it. It's like, what the frick? So that was even weirder. Okay, where I got 3 red flags, strike 3, except there's 4 strikes in this case because I didn't know there was a 4th strike. Strike 3 was basically, like I said, he's political. he made a really annoying comment that I just did not like at all. And this, like, alright, this is where I am drawing the fucking line. Like, I cannot push it any further than this, right? He shared on his story, his Instagram story, a post that said, I don't care if Jesus Christ is on the Epstein list. If they are on the Epstein list, then they gotta be put in jail. Okay, let me say something, okay? I'm a believer, okay, regarding the Epstein list, okay? Even though I don't really care that much about it, okay? With the Epstein list, yeah, fucking release it. What is the big deal? What is the holdup, genuinely? And it's like a thing, too, of like, but the thing is what pisses me off about Democrats is that they never brought it up when Trump was in office. You'll notice during that entire reign, or not when Trump, when Biden was in office. When Biden was in office, nobody fucking cared. Nobody fucking cared about the Epstein list, but then all of a sudden Trump is in office and, oh my gosh, release the Epstein files. Like, what are we doing, bro? What are we doing? So that already pissed me off. But specifically, like, okay, fair, like, okay, I think that they should be revealed to the public. However, the fact that you would even make a comment about Jesus Christ himself being on that thing is like, how far from God do you genuinely have to be to make an evil comment like that? Like, you have to genuinely be like some sort of spawn of Satan. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. Like, it genuinely made me quit. Like, I literally had to ask God today, or like yesterday. I was like, can people like those even be saved? Like, genuinely, like, it blows my mind how far from God you have to be to even make a comment for that. Like, I would genuinely pray for you if you end up doing that. And so, I just had my own way of phrasing it. I just put it on a note. I didn't really confront him about it because I'm not very confrontational. But, I mean, I just made a note about it. I was just like, just to kind of test the waters. Because, like I said, up to this point, I've been more of like a yes man kind of regarding him. Just kind of saying, like, all right, yeah, whatever he says is what he says, right? I almost just said his name. But, like, whatever he says, he could just kind of says, right? And so, basically, it's a thing of, I just kind of made a note about it. I was like, what did I say? I basically said, like, blasphemy against Jesus is so cringe, bro. Like, that's literally all I said. I didn't say much about it. It's just kind of a quick note to get it off my mind and out into the public. Within 12 hours, even if it's not directed at me, I don't care. Within 12 hours, he said a note that said, hate woke, there's ways to go to sleep permanently. Strike 4. Strike 4. Because that is most likely a death threat against me, okay? And even if it's not, then why are you threatening people with that think the same way as me? Why? You didn't need to do that. You didn't need to put the fucking gun down for a second and talk like a man. That's the first thing, okay? And then the second thing that pissed me off about it is that just proves my point about how people do not care about your other opinion. They do not care about your opinion. They don't want to listen to your opinion. Nobody is loving. They're not loving. They just want their opinion. They want their way only. And it was clear from the start. It was clear from that moment. I'm like, well then fuck it. I'm blocking your ass. If you're genuinely sending a fucking death threat over political ideology, there is something wrong with you. There is genuinely something wrong with you. So, I mean, like, it's just absolutely ridiculous. Like, at that point, even if it's not against me, I don't care. You're threatening violence because of ideology, and it's not right. It really isn't. So I'm gonna keep you in my prayers, but just know, dog, like, we're not a thing anymore, and we're not going to ever be a thing, because even if you do rise to the top, you're going to talk about, oh, there's like so many people that switch up or whatever. I do not want to be associated with someone like you. I don't. Never have, never will. And I was getting bad feelings about you from the start, but that just was the final push. That was, as I like to say, the straw that broke the camel's back. So that was a big thing. I'm still friends with the one guy, as of right now, the other guy that was on the song, right? And therefore, I think I'm still going to end up being on the song, just provided it isn't the other guy's version. Because, like I said, at this fucking point, I don't want to be associated with him pretty much almost ever. Like, it's basically the thing of, like, the only reason I'm still on the song with him is because, hypothetically, we're both going to be features on it, and it's good for growth. So, my gosh, what a fucking mess. Like, see, do you already understand, like, what I'm talking about? Like, it's crazy how much can happen in 9 weeks if you don't, like, stay on top of this kind of thing. Like there's a lot, dude. There's a lot to unpack, but just I don't get it. I don't get it. And I could talk about it all day, but I'm not gonna give it my attention. It's just a thing of like there is no reason to be doing that. You don't need to be doing that. You really don't. So it's just like, all right, buddy, like whatever. So pretty much there's that. Okay, the second thing, I'm gonna be honest. So crazy topic switch up, by the way, but when it comes to like love life and stuff like that, this semester just kind of made me realize that I'm not ready for a relationship. So it's just a thing of like there's already a lot on my plate as is, and just at this freaking point, there's no real reason for me to jump into something. As much as I want something, and as much as there was a girl who I believe at one point this semester was interested in me, um, it was just a thing of I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I still gotta work on myself. I still gotta just stay on top of things. I'm just like the way that I'm living right now. I just know because the other two relationships that I've actually like pursued, they haven't been like developed into like full relationships. But the thing is that with regarding those two things, the reason why both of them ended from my perspective, because like in both cases like she broke up with me, right? It wasn't the same person, by the way, but I'm just saying she is like the person I was pursuing. In both cases, what ended up happening is that pretty much she was, what is it? Yeah, basically she probably believed most likely that she wasn't getting enough attention from me, right? Which is just kind of a thing of like that's totally fair, honestly. And the reason why she wasn't getting enough attention from me in both cases was just because I was really primarily consumed by other things going on in my life. And so, it was kind of just like a similar thing in this case as well, to the point where, well, if those relationships failed because I didn't have enough time for a girlfriend, hypothetically, then obviously, if we got into a relationship, it's probably not going to go well because I don't know how to make time for a girlfriend, right? So, it was just a thing of like so far I haven't made a move, and like honestly, I think maybe like I want someone like that in the future, like the person who is interested in me, and like she's exactly my type too, right? It was nothing against her. It's just I can't give you what you need, at least at the moment. So those are the two main things. Honestly, I'm gonna refill my water and I'm gonna use the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back. Let me see. Those were the two primary things that I wanted to cover. Other than like the actual scope, let me just check to see because I need to see if how much was reviewed. It's probably not going to show up. Whatever. All right. So basically, yeah, those were the two like main like points. Other than like everything else that I've covered that I just kind of wanted to touch upon because the first one was just like it just makes me mad, bro. It's like you're talented, you're a talented guy, and like why do you just have to be that way? Why? It just doesn't make sense. And then the second thing was just because It was a wake up call. It was a wake up call, really, because I mean, I'm at a point like it's not that. I mean, this is gonna sound like a bad statement. It's not that I can't get anybody. It's just the fact that like right now I just can't have anybody. You know, if that makes sense. So really, now that just brings us back to academics because I basically already covered music. For Through Hell and Back, which is what I'm calling for the next album. For anyone who's somehow miraculously still here and is not their first time watching this one take series. Which, by the way, thank you for already listening to my crazy ass. But basically, the thing is that four currently, provided that I like enough, if I go with like the one that I just finished mastering, 4 out of the 12 tracks are 100% done, and there are a lot of tracks that are very close to being done. So I think the plan for that is basically, if I draw like a little roadmap here, is basically going to be like pretty much sometime in December I release a remix that I already kind of had in mind, and then I release kind of another song that I had in mind, right? It's not called this, but it has like that in the title. Let me see, and then we have kind of this one, which I can do, I would either probably near like the end of January, I would release single 1, and then February would be single 2, and then for March would be single 3, and then my hope is that by April, we would have the album out, right? And then from there, I could just keep releasing singles once a month until my next album. I honestly think it's a really good idea because, as far as I'm concerned, single 1 and single 3 are completely good to go for the most part. And then you have single 2, which I basically just need to work on, and I just need to have done sometime before February. I mean, you know, like, it's not that bad. And then, like, the rest of it, I just released the album when I released the album, and I gotta make sure I get it done specifically by April because I think it would be best to release it before Easter. And so I think like releasing it like April 2nd or April 3rd, I think it would make the most sense in my opinion. So that's what we're gonna go with. Yeah, that's the plan for that. Now, back to the big one, right? Because we already covered the rest of it. All right, so yeah, dead time. All right, it was a lot of dead time in between there, okay? As for the next one, okay, 43 called 60 through 63, we are going to call A Taste of Hell. Because if this is Hell in a Half Week, then these episodes were a taste of hell for sure. Obviously, these 6 exams in the span of 3 weeks, right? And it's not as bad as this, however, it is still bad enough, okay? The first day, it just started with, it started with a career fair, where I was able to present myself. It's actually kind of funny, I do remember that day. I showed up in my navy blue shirt, and pretty much like throughout pretty much every day this semester, I was able to put on a collared shirt and actually make myself look presentable. There were some days where I kind of wore a hoodie and stuff like that, but overall I think it was only like 4 or 5 days. So for the most part, I have been keeping up with like that fancy attire, that business casual, right? And it's kind of funny because people were obviously already dressed up for the career fair and stuff, and they were saying like, man, why don't we dress like this more often? And I was just thinking in my head, I'm like, I don't have to think about that because I already dress like that every day, right? And that was really the goal, is like I show up to the career fair, and it's not like I'm just showing up and putting on this act for the career fair. It's that I show up and what you see is what you get, right? That was the whole goal behind the outfit, and I'm super glad that it did pan out that way because it's exactly how it felt. I was able to get off 9 resumes for that, and so I applied to some internships for that. I need to get more into it though, especially over winter break and especially over probably this next week, because I mean those are pretty much like the only chances I'm gonna get to do it before they actually start like locking in internships and stuff. So basically, that was pretty good. Like I would say that's successful. Okay, and then we have Tuesday, which I need to recap the classes real quick. Let's see. Let's use a color that we haven't used yet. Have I used light blue? Yeah, I've used light blue. I haven't used the light green. That's not a bad idea. I'll probably go with that. Let's see. So basically, to recap the classes themselves, which I'll put over here, we have linear algebra, because I already spoiled that I take linear algebra, and then we have, oh my gosh, I cannot believe, oh wow, oh that hurts, oh that hurts, and then we call that unplanned pregnancy. That was number 3. This is gonna be so out of context for someone who's like, this is their first episode, which I highly doubt is gonna be someone's first episode, but basically, so there was those 3, and then there was, what did I call that one? Okay, well, I remember there was, let me see, do you remember that? Then I remember there was lab, I just called it lab. And then, I forgot what I called the other one. I guess I do have it pulled on here. Oh yeah, just the 1 p.m., right. So basically, then there's the 1 p.m. So, oh man, oh, I want to talk about it so bad. Alright, do I talk about it? So, things have changed with professors. I am going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about it before I get to the rest of it, okay? So basically, regarding linear algebra, not much has changed, right? Unplanned pregnancy, I feel like there have been on and off moments. I'll definitely get into some of that later. And then, like, let me see has been pretty good for the most part, especially the professor has been really chill. And then the lab as well, I feel like there have been, like, some on and off moments. And then the 1 p.m. is extremely on and off. The professor is either, like, the most goated that he is that day, or he's just, you know, it's just like, it's a bad day to be in that classroom, you know, it's just one of the, it's one or the other. There's no real in between. Mainly just because he's either like extremely like lenient on like certain things, or he just like, he gives the just straight up like just overloads, you know. It's one of those things. It's not in a bad way, it's just like sometimes it's just stressful, you know. So basically, but the main one that I want to talk about is cool because oh my gosh, but that does, the thing is, that does tie in with the second exam for that class. So you know what, the long tangent aside, I'm going to bring it up later on because it's more relevant to the plot then. So basically, anyways, first exam, right? I walk into the first exam and he was teasing us the whole time, the whole freaking time about like, oh, like, oh, he makes the exam is going to be hard and you got to study for the exam, this and this, okay? I walk in, it wasn't a horrible test, right? I thought it was fair, personally, right? And so, a little bit of backstory on that. I'm going to just finish the whole arc with that test, and then I'm going to get into the other things, right? So basically, we finished that, and the next lecture that we had for that class, he was basically like, okay, so like, and by the way, this was like Tuesday for reference. So he's basically like, so yeah, like, what did you guys think of the test? So he's like, and we were saying, it was like, it was good, and he was smiling, he was like, it wasn't bad, right? We were like, yeah, it wasn't bad, and he's like, well, it shouldn't have been, because that was the easiest test I've ever made, and I was like, okay, buddy, hang on a damn minute, hang on, that was not easy by any means, that was a fair exam at best, right? And so I was just blown away because I was like, no freaking shot. This man just said that was the easiest test. If that was the easiest test he's ever made and we don't have any practice exams to reference, I do not want to see what a hard exam for this class looks like. And what stressed me out even more specifically was the fact that, because for that class, what's important is that pretty much when you get a bad grade, there's no coming back from it. There really isn't. And I'm going to talk about it a little bit more. But the idea is that you get a certain percentage on the test. Like if you get, you get a 40 on a test. Not even a 40. If you get a 30 on a test, you're done. That's it. Like you might as well just like see you in 1 year, and you got to GRO the class. It's one that you can't mess around in. And he said that the range of scores that people got on that exam was anywhere from a 15 to a 100. Oh my gosh. And keep in mind, this was not right after. This wasn't the lecture after, because the lecture after he was talking about the easy exams, but exams didn't come out until like 2 weeks later, somewhere in this period that I haven't even gotten to. That's when exams got out, and then that's when he was talking about the 15 to 100 range. I'm like, Oh my gosh, the suspense is actually killing me because like I need the score. I need to know what I scored so that way I know like what to expect and like am I gonna be in a comeback position? Is this and this? But 15 to 100, you already know I was stressing because I was like, oh my gosh, like there have been times in the past where I don't know how well I've done on an exam, or I think I've done well in an exam, and then I end up getting a 40. And I'm like, what if I'm the 15? What if I'm the guy on the other end of the spectrum that's like just screwed? What if my mind was racing. It was like, blah, 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 right? That's found like one of my favorite quotes recently, by the way. It's like I keep seeing this clip of The Usual Suspects. This is so unrelated, but this movie called The Usual Suspects, and like there are these people lined up. I don't know why, but like there's like supposed to recite a line, and there's just like this clip that replays in my mind. That's like just like it's like number 2, please step forward. Give me the fucking keys, you fucking cocksucker, motherfucker. Anyways, that was so fucking random, but basically, there was, so there was that. I'm really killing the professionalism with my video, but you know what, this is what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be the uncut, uncensored version of me, right? This is what it's supposed to really be at its core. And so I promise that you're going to see probably Business Jake a little bit more tomorrow. We'll be a little bit more in our element. Right now, I'm just kind of having fun with it. Like, let's just have fun with it while we can. So, basically, yeah. Got my test back. Thank goodness I got a 73. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I literally saw the 73, and I was like to my best friend, I was like, let's go. Because, freaking, I was just like, after seeing that range, after hearing that was the range for the exam, I was just glad to get whatever I freaking got. I was like, oh my gosh, thank goodness. I don't have to stress about like it that much, right? And so I was basically like, all right, you know what, like that just means we gotta study for the next exam. More on the next exam a little bit later, okay? For now, the next exam, the actual next exam, this one, Wednesday. So basically this was for the 1 p.m. This was the 1 p.m. test. And so if I remember my exams correctly, yes, and I do. Basically what happened was that this one, I didn't study much because I was studying for the one on Tuesday a little bit more, right? The good old, cool unk, quote unquote. But basically what it is for the Wednesday, the 1 p.m. was basically, I didn't study for it much because I was studying for the cool unk. And so basically what is it? What is it? I'm trying to remember. So yeah. Basically, the nice thing is that the test had a lot, and I mean a lot of ties to linear algebra, right? So much so to the point where I was studying it literally for the day, like a few hours before the test. A few hours before the test, by the way, for reference, I have linear algebra, and so basically, I was literally like looking up something. I was like, there was a question of like determine if blank is a subspace, and I was just thinking to me like, oh my gosh, like what is a subspace? Like what is it? And then in linear algebra, like she starts lecture, the professor, and she's like, all right, class, today we're gonna go over what a subspace is, and oh my gosh, golden, beautiful, absolutely beautiful, absolute cinema. And I just knew at that point that we were set. I knew because the professor said that it was gonna be, he wasn't planning on making the test hard. And we had a practice exam in which the first sample exam, reflected very hard what the actual exam looked like. And so I just knew from that moment, I'm like, we got it. We got this. So I went in, took the exam, got a 96 on that one. Let's freaking go, baby. Come on. 96. Let's go. Okay? So there was that. And then there was a little bit of a break. Okay? But the thing is like, whenever you have a quote-unquote break in here, just know you're never taking a break. You're never on break as an engineer. You're either there's always a homework assignment due, at least one every day. There's always some lab going on. There's always this, and this. It's like, you may have like looked, it's easy to look at the breaks in here and be like, okay, Jake, like, that still doesn't excuse the fact that you haven't gotten to one take yet. Okay, sure, no excuses. However, engineers and STEM students know that when there is a break in here, where it looks like a break, you're never on a break. You're never on a break. Even like the next few weeks is going to be the biggest break that I've gotten, and it's not going to be a break. Even Thanksgiving break was a little bit of a break, and even then I know I shouldn't have been taking a break. Okay, that's what it really is, right? So there's stuff going on, right? And so I'm just burnt out until we get to here, okay? This is the key thing, okay? And this is why it gets a little complicated, because let me see, they don't have a midterm. They don't call it that. They call it midterm week. Let me say that again. Midterm week. It means you have one midterm on a Tuesday and another midterm in your lab section, which my lab section is on Thursday. So the first part, the written portion, and the only way I can describe this is that the entire test, I thought I was crushing it. I'm not even gonna lie, I thought it would be a guaranteed the first 100 that I would ever get on the midterm. When I said it would be 100, worst case scenario 95. I get it back, it was an 85. Because I made a lot of dumb mistakes on there. Well, that was unfortunate because I really thought I did really well. And so basically, naturally after that, thankfully those two they aren't too hard because they're split up. If they were in one section, they would be absolutely even more terrible. But basically, then Wednesday came around, and that was the unplanned pregnancy. Out of all of them, I can say confidently that Cool Unk was the main one I was stressed about. Right behind it would be the 1 p.m. Not the 1 p.m. Sorry, unplanned pregnancy. That would be the most stressful one for me. I knew it, and I just knew the entire time that it would be. And so basically, I was studying for that, like literally this entire break, every chance that I got, this little like 5-day gap. Like my parents came in that weekend. They literally came in from Saturday to Sunday. And yeah, I literally used all of it to study for that freaking test. And so it was unfortunate because I didn't realize until a few minutes before the test that all of the exams, specifically the first exams for that class, followed a very strange pattern. And that pattern was the fact that all of the exams from previous years have hyper-focused on one subject. They heavily focused on one particular thing. Even though you covered all these things across this entire span, right? Because keep in mind, this is like October 15th. School started for us like August 25th. It's a long time. A long time. But despite that, he only covers basically one topic throughout the exam. And it's just a bunch of different problems on that one specific topic. And so, or at least one type of concept. So the problem is that the exams that I reviewed were 2024 and 2023. It was those two, 2024 and 2023. And the exam just so happened to cover the same material that was on exam 2022. And let me tell you, when I got that test, I was heartbroken. I was absolutely heartbroken because what I saw already on 2024 and 2023, it was hard, but I had it all memorized. I knew what it was talking about, but unfortunately, that pretty much wasn't on the test. Maybe the last few problems, maybe maybe 25% of it was on it, and I was just like, the rest of it was on a topic that I just didn't know anything about, and it sucked. It really sucked because I took one look at the test, and I knew I was doomed. I just looked at it and I was like, this is about to be some of the worst 75 minutes of my life. Like, it really is. And what made it even worse for me was knowing that there were other people who were struggling just like me. I knew my lab partner, who's an absolutely based guy, by the way. But the thing is that he studied. It made me feel so bad for him, bro. He literally said he had a list of every topic in there, and he just so happened to get to every subject except for that one subject. I'm sorry, why are we going all in on one subject? We've covered so much in 2 months, and you're going to make it entirely based on one thing that we've learned? I don't think that's an accurate way of testing our knowledge, but whatever. It is what it is. Game is game. And alas, I am playing by the game maker's rules. So if that's how the professor wants to play it, then that's how the professor wants to play it. I'm not going to contest that, right? So basically I do that. I honestly thought it was going to be terrible. I was expecting anywhere from a 35 to optimistically assuming that everything I put down was somehow correct, an 83. which that's just like best case scenario, right? So I got the test back, and I was extremely blessed. The test took like 3 weeks to get back, so I mean it was pretty much like right here, right? It was a long time to get back. But the thing is that I ended up getting a 62, and comparatively, I was like, wow, bro. Like, oh my gosh, my freaking guardian angel, bro. My guardian angel is watching over me, because to this day, I still cannot explain how I managed to squeeze a 62 out of that. I genuinely didn't know what I was talking about for the majority of the exam. I know what he's talking about now that I've taken a look at the exam, and now that it's hindsight 2020. But at the time, I was extremely shocked. I was very, very shocked, because I was just like, wow, wow, oh, I'm so blessed. I'm like, did I die and go to heaven or something like that? Like, what is going on, right? So, I mean, pretty much, I'm extremely blessed for that 62. I really am. So, and that was pretty much that. And then the last day in here, Thursday, was the lab section of Let Me See. And so that one I ended up getting a 92 on. I almost got a 100, but I was cut off from it because apparently something needed to be interactive, which it wasn't, even though it kind of low-key was interactive. They were like, oh yeah, they didn't specify that it had to be interactive. That's what it is. But basically they were like, oh, it isn't interactive enough. And so I was like, whatever that means, all right, fine. So, I mean, the 92 on that, which means the averages between those two exams in a midterm week, as Let Me See likes to call it, was an 88. So it's like, okay, all right, you know, like, that's not bad at all, right? I'm not going to complain about that. The main thing that I'm stressed about is that my GPA needs it. It desperately needs it. Basically, I'm at a point now where I'm coming in and I have the potential to earn. I'll write it down. I have the potential, this is key, potential, to earn an A in linear, an A in Let Me See, and even somehow an A in the 1 p.m. Let me just tell you, the 1 p.m. has made a complete 180. It went from being the class that I was most stressed about, the class that I was literally having a panic attack several times over and over and over and over and over again, to the class that I am the most confident in. And I can say that wholeheartedly. And then, of course, linear was, you know what, I'll talk about that in a little bit, specifically because the last thing on here was the linear exam. And during that linear exam, I barely studied until pretty much like the night before, because I just had so much going on. And I ended up getting a 91 on that. 91. Not bad at all. Not bad in the slightest, right? So, obviously, that means that currently, I believe, I did the math, I did rough estimations. I think I have around a 91 in linear, right? That's what I'm looking at right now. 1 p.m., I know my midterms together look pretty good. And then I know there is some missed quiz, which that leads into tomorrow, because I believe tomorrow I got to go in and retake one last quiz, if not maybe another quiz besides that. So, such a mess, dude. All right. But, and then Let Me See specifically is also just a thing of like, I'm awaiting these previous midterm results, because I'm gonna be honest, I have no clue how I did on those. And to be honest, I don't know if I want to find out. But I know that if it remains similar enough to what I have right now, I do have potential to get an A in these 3 classes. And I want to get an A in at least 2. I need some A's. I need some freaking A's to tack onto that GPA, because I know that most likely these 2 are probably going to be C's. Maybe a B in the unplanned pregnancy. Potentially. But I mean, that's like if we're just being super optimistic about it. So, basically, that's that portion, okay? What made it specifically worse is that during this week, the week of the linear exam, I started to get sick. And, that was so bad. That threw me off, and that was just terrible. Which reminds me that I have a expired prescription that I need to go take care of, but it was just a thing of like, my gosh, dude, it's like, why? Like, I get done with all of that and I am just greeted to being sick. Well, fantastic. Thank you for making me sick, universe. But it is, oh my gosh, I need to stop dropping this freaking marker. Alright, so, and then I dropped it on the table. Alright, so that was that. Okay, that was portion number 2. Okay, portion number 3 is 64 to 79. I don't know what I'm going to call this. What should I call it? I'm going to call it Don't Be Fooled. Because like I said, pretty much the only thing that happened during this time was me preparing for this monstrosity over here. That was pretty much it. Even the semiconductor... You know what? Yeah. It's time. It's time. We can reveal it. There's no harm. This class, Coolunk, which, well, let's just call it what it is. Semiconductor physics. Okay, that's what it is. Hopefully the grade makes a little more sense, but basically the idea is that even the semiconductor physics professor was just talking about, like, yeah, I mean, pretty much like literally the Thursday that we were done with it, he was like, start studying for the next exam. That's how bad it was. And so, I mean, any chance I got, again, I was studying for that exam along with any other exams that would help me throughout this, okay? The problem is that, like I said, as an engineer, and if you are an engineering student or you have been an engineering student, you know dang well that you never get a break. You never get a break, ever. And so basically the problem is that I literally had something to do pretty much every day of the week. Okay, you had Monday, which typically had something from basically Let Me See. Okay, Tuesday also had something from Let Me See. Wednesday was unplanned pregnancy. Okay, Thursday was semiconductor physics. Friday was unplanned pregnancy again, and then also, let's see what else. 1 p.m. Well, before it's Friday morning actually would be the 1 p.m. and then afterwards the Friday night would be, what is it? I don't even know. Yeah. You know, that was another thing. Wednesday would have the lab due, right? And then Friday/Sunday would have linear algebra due, right? So it's just like one after the other. It's like it just keeps beating you. It keeps, like, you're trying to come up for water, you're trying to breathe, and they're just not letting you breathe, right? It's crazy, it's chaotic. So even up till, I mean, to put in perspective, even up until Veterans Day, they literally had an assignment for Let Me See due on Veterans Day. I didn't even get a break. The frickin' the Grace reading day, the quote-unquote reading day, that is Veterans Day. They turned Veterans Day into reading day for me. That's one, because this is looking already worse than finals week. Not only did it turn my one day off, besides Labor Day, into a reading day for me, not only did they do that, but they gave me a freaking assignment due that night. Are you serious? And let me just say, let me make it very, very clear here, because this is not your average exam schedule. Even just looking at it, you already know by the looks of it, it's not an exam schedule, a normal one. But let me just tell you, because Wednesday was the 1 p.m. Thursday was semiconductor. Then Saturday through Tuesday morning, I'm not even joking, through Tuesday morning was the unplanned pregnancy. Then, also on Tuesday, was Let Me See. Then, well, on Wednesday, we had a lab as well, the following Wednesday, right? And then Thursday, we had Let Me See again. And then Friday, we had linear algebra. This was not your average exam schedule, and not your average set of exams either. If there was an alternative way, an alternative title to this, I would honestly call it the fucking boss rush. Because that's literally what it is. For people who don't play video games, what a boss rush is it basically means that you ignore all the levels in the game and you just go straight for the bosses, and you try and go for the bosses. You basically try and defeat the bosses in a lineup, one by one, and you don't get any breaks in between them. That is a freaking boss rush. That is what I would call it, right? Because this exam, the Wednesday one, he was saying when we got back the exams of the second one, right, the one I got a 96 on, I was happy about it, right? And he was saying, is like, okay, like, it's good. A lot of you performed well on the second exam. However, just know that for the third exam, that's the hardest one. That's the one that people struggle the most with, right? And I completely understand why, because the stuff that we are covering in that class is just insane. So there was that, right? And then obviously semiconductor. If he was talking about how this one was the easiest exam he's ever made, and it's like a 73, well then, frick, right? It's not, you already know it's not going to be good. Okay, this weekend one, okay, this is actually the one thing that I'll have to mention, okay? Because partway in there, right, what made me really mad and what set me off personally was the fact that people midway through, they wanted to change the date of it, right? They wanted to change the date, right? They wanted to push it back a week so that hypothetically it would look a little bit more like this, right? To be on that Saturday, Sunday, instead of this one and this one, right? Now you may be wondering, well, Jake, why would you not be on board with that, right? Why would you want to keep it the same when you could just move it, have a little bit of a break, and then all of a sudden it would just be a little bit more like this, right? It would be like a little bit more like nicer, surely, right? No. The answer is no. And I'll tell you why the answer is no. Because I was telling everybody about this. I do not want to finish with 5 freaking exams and then be greeted by a take-home that's going to last the whole weekend. I don't want to deal with that. Ain't nobody trying to deal with that. So I would rather, as bad as it is, I would rather keep it right here and right here than have to move it back a whole weekend because, you already have a lot of exams going on. And so it was annoying because people were trying to push it back. I'm like, don't mess with my hell and a half week. And as bad as it is, I've been preparing this whole freaking semester specifically to go through this lineup, not for it to be tacked on at another weekend when I should be freaking resting, right? And that's important, okay, because it's obviously an online exam, right? And so what the professor did for that, because he heard a lot of complaints, okay, I literally had to speak in class. I never speak in that class, but I had to speak up. I was like, hey man, like, I literally have like 5 exams that week, not including this exam. I'm like, I gotta do something. Like we can't just, I can't do that, okay? I was like, I'd rather just get it all out of the way, just scrape the, tear off the Band-Aid. I'd rather rip off the Band-Aid than have the anticipation looming over me when it's only already gonna cover material from here to here. We're gonna forget it in a week, okay? Because we already have so much other stuff going on. But I'd rather just like get it out of the way now while it's still fresh on my mind, while I'm still going through the motions, and while I'm already going like back to all the other freaking bosses that are coming in this rush. I'd rather just get it out of the way than have to push it off for no reason, because everyone else wants to, and because they can't handle like 3 other exams. Because this is the important thing, right? Everything in this week, okay, and I know for perspective, there are a lot of people in my major that had a crazy set amount of tests, right? That not even including this one, they had 4 tests, right? I understand that, okay? I'm not judging those people, right? I'm not judging those people at all. Who I am judging is the people who are in classes who basically don't have midterms here. Because major specific people, they have these 2, right? They already have those 2. What I'm judging is the people who only have these 2 exams going on, nothing else going on the next weekend. Oh, they just want to push it off just cause. No. You don't get to push it off just because you can't handle 3 exams in 1 week. If you can't handle 3 exams in 1 week, you don't even want to know what I'm going through. You don't even want to know. So, it was annoying. He put up a poll for it, basically. That is my point. He put up a survey, that people answered over the course of a couple days. And it was stressing me out because he himself said that he would highly prefer keeping it as is, right? And he laid out 3 options for everybody. He either said you could take it during the original weekend schedule, okay? Or we can take it during the original weekend scheduled. We can take it the following weekend, or for some reason, because he thought it was a good idea to put it there, we can take it during the week. Why would we want to take it during the week? Can we just, why? So that was already giving me, just the thought of it was giving me an aneurysm, because I was just like, there is no freaking way that we would go from, like, I would be so pissed if I was completely fine with the date that it already was, and then people who wanted to push it back, they couldn't be signed, they wanted to push it back for whatever reasons they have, and then all of a sudden now we have to take it in the middle of the week while I'm going through these other exams. Seriously, I would not be able to handle that. And so it was annoying because he put up a poll about it, and he said he was heavily preferring to keep it the way it was, right? But unfortunately, the poll was saying that they wanted to move it to the date. They wanted to push it back a week. That was the majority vote. And so, thankfully, like a goated professor, okay, he hasn't been my favorite. I think he is overall maybe a little bit overrated, specifically just because he's not too approachable, in my opinion. However, okay, the key thing here is that he found a way so that everybody wins, and I highly respect for him. My respect for him went completely all the way up after it. He basically found a way to make an online exam that is allowed to be open from this time, this Saturday to this Sunday, right? And you can open it anytime during the week. However, you only have 72 hours to complete it once you open the exam. Thank goodness. One, because it was already supposed to only be 48, but he made it 72. And second, because, oh my gosh, that means I can go in and I can take it, right? I can go in and take it during the original date when I wanted to take it, right? Oh my gosh, I'm so thankful for that. I really am thankful for that. But I don't even think I covered the other exams, so I'm just going to use the bathroom real quick, and I'm going to go through it. Okay. So, that's right. I wasn't talking about how the exams actually went. I was just talking about why it's going to be crazy, right? But that was the saving grace, is that we were able to go in and we could take it whenever we want. And the fact that he gave us 72 hours. Just a little bit of foreshadowing for you guys. I would not have been able to complete it if it was the original 48. If it was, because it was originally supposed to be 48 hours, I took 71 out of the 72 hours to complete that exam. I'm just going to tell you. So, to put it in perspective, I'm very glad that he did it the way he did it, okay? Then on Tuesday, okay, it was the first part of Let Me See. Then Thursday, because you probably remembered it by now, is going to be the second part of Let Me See. And then Friday, which by the way was substantially harder. I already knew going into it would be substantially harder than the first exam. I mean, not even freaking close. At least the first exam had closer concepts to something that I've taken to a class before, but that one was completely new territory, exam 2. And then Friday, we would cap it off with linear algebra. So, to go through the exams, Wednesday, the 1 p.m. Really good until problem 3, a little bit of problem 3 that I know I messed up on. And then when I got to problem 4, it said, use your answer for number 3. And keep in mind that this was a 4-question exam. And so that was stressing me out, because I'm like, well, frick, man. If I know that I didn't get question 3 right, and they're asking me on question 4, use your answer from question 3 on a 4-question exam, then you know we're screwed, right? To put it in perspective, okay? the actual results of the exam came out. Well, actually, first I'll mention what he was really based for was that I made a mistake, a really simple error on the first problem, and he was did you mean to do this? And I was like, what? He's like, is this a typo or is this your actual answer? And I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you. And so he saved my whole problem. He probably gave me like 4% back just from like correcting that one little error. And so I got my exam score back for that class, and I got a 92 on that one, which is, oh, thank goodness. That was supposed to be the hardest exam in that class, which means that my averages across those 3 exams for the 1 p.m., 92, 96, 92, that is a 93.33 average. Really good, and why I think I am currently in the running for an A in the 1 p.m., right? So then afterwards, semiconductor was the next one. And so, as advertised, I will not lie, that was a hard exam. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but it was for the most part a fair type of bad. It was a fair type of unfair. That's how I would describe it. It's basically like, sorry if I gotta stretch my legs. I'm getting like cramped just like standing in one spot, bro. This is why I actually gotta lock in with one take, because I don't want to keep like doing 9-week summaries or whatever. Like, okay, but yeah, basically the thing about it was it was brutal, right? It was brutal, and there were definitely noticeable typos on the thing, right? But the thing is that ultimately, what made it kind of, what is it? Yeah. What made it hard specifically was that that there was some stuff that was there, but specifically the fact that for that class, what the professor he doesn't allow a cheat sheet on the exam. He allows an equation sheet where you can only put up to a certain amount of equations. For that one, he made it 20, because the first one was 10, and then this exam would be covering stuff from the first exam, but then also this exam, so it was 20 equations in total. It's very much an exam where if you don't have the right equations, you're stranded. There's nothing you can do, and so that's really all there is to it, right? So pretty much, I took the test. I walked out. I honestly thought I got a 40. I was like, I know a 40 when I see it. I taken enough tests to know when I got a 40, right? And so basically, it's important to know because what actually happened was that it was after Let Me See, or it was before the Let Me See exam that I found out from a buddy that basically like, hey, the exams actually, he released exams today, which was crazy to me. That was mind blowing because if you remember, first for him to release this exam took about like 2 to 3 weeks, right? So I mean maybe 2.5 probably. It was just insane, right? So I wasn't expecting that, and that definitely affected my psyche a little bit throughout this exam because I was just thinking the entire time like, how did I do on that exam? That's what I want to know about. That's the one that I care about the most. And so I go over to, it was like a thing where like his office hours were from a certain time to a certain time, and it just so happened that we would probably catch him if we went towards the end of this, right? And so basically what I did was I went over to his office, right, to go get some stuff. And let me just build some like backstory for you, because over time, okay, we had to dethrone him. I know I believe I called him the Chalant Unk at some point, but he has been downgraded severely. He used to be really cool, in my opinion, but then over time, I slowly realized that he is, I'm not sugarcoating this, but not one of the worst professors, because he's not a bad professor, but I would call him the most evil professor that I've had. I would call him that. And the reason why I would call him that specifically is the idea that he picks on students in lecture, for one, like in a really rude way or whatever. And second is like he doesn't like, I don't know, he's just like he moves villainously. Well, basically if someone mentions something in lecture, like if they ask a question, this is one of those teachers where like you ask him there's no dumb questions, but you ask him a dumb question, he's like, that's a fucking dumb answer. He doesn't say that, obviously, like that's not even close to what he actually says, but he basically says like, no, like that doesn't even make sense. So, like something along those lines. Obviously I'm making it more extreme than it really is, but it's like it's not too far off, to be honest, right? And so there's that, but specifically what I don't like about him is that he overworks the TA. Specifically the fact that every time I ask him a question, every time I've asked him a question this semester, his go-to answer, regardless of the question, is ask your TA, ask your TA, ask your TA. Okay, at this point, who is running the class? Is it you or the TA? Like, I genuinely want to know. Like, I don't think you should be reliant on your TA, especially because of what I'm about to talk about, right? To put it in perspective, for the first exam, he didn't, well, first of all, the professor didn't even proctor the exam, right? If I think I'm using that word correctly, like, kind of like, he didn't, like, answer any questions or, like, go about helping any students because he wasn't even in the room. He left that up to the TA. Second, when it came to grading the first exam, no wonder why it took so long, because the TA was the only one grading stuff, and he had to go through and grade over 1,000 problems collectively for the whole class. What is this man doing besides lecturing? Like, he's a good lecturer. I will give him that. He is good in lecture, and what he says makes sense. But you take away that, he's not a good professor. He really isn't, and he's an evil guy. He really is, for not only us, but for making the TA go through that, right? So just with that little bit of context, right? His door is closed to his office, and I'm just assuming, I mean, like, it's office hours. You just kind of come in, right? It's not really anything crazy. You just come in, kind of say, hey, like, can I get some help and stuff? And so obviously it's like a thing of, like, it's to pick up the exams, like I mentioned. And so I go in, and he's like, I'm like, kind of like, hey, and he's just like sitting. I think he has like some sort of apple in his hand, like a stereotypical teacher. And he's like, did you think of knocking? That was his actual reaction. I walk in and I'm like, hey, like, I'm kind of like, hey, like, I'm kind of like, I'm nice, like, kind of peppy. And I'm like with my friend, right? And he's basically just like, did you think of knocking? And I was just like thinking in my mind, I'm like, don't make me mad. Don't make me mad right now. Don't do this. And so then basically I said, I'm like, sorry. Like, and I said in a nice tone, this is all like really nice. I say, sorry. Like, I kind of knock on the thing, like, can I come in, right? And so he basically says, like, one at a time, right? And so, like, he was a little bit more patient with me from that on, but I've never felt more uncomfortable in office hours than I did in that room. I really did not. I really have not felt more uncomfortable in office hours than I did in that little time frame. It wasn't even that long. It was an in and out experience. I was basically in there for 2 minutes. Never felt just more unsafe, genuinely. I walked into his room. I sat at his desk, or like kind of like not at his desk, but the chair behind his desk, whatever. You know what I'm saying, basically, right? As you would in a one-on-one setting. I see on his computer he has some shit about the Epstein files pulled up on his computer. I'm like, I don't even want to get into it. I don't want to get into it because what are you doing? Like, genuine, like, I'm sorry, it's a genuine question, but what are you doing all day? Like, you're here on the clock and you're looking at, I mean, maybe you're on no, you're not on your lunch break though. You're in office hours. You're in office hours and you're looking about some political stuff. Like, what are you doing, man? Like, it just doesn't make sense. And so basically, it just made me mad. It really did, because I was just like in the room and I was like, okay, well, like, this guy is just like, I don't know. I can't even express it into words. Why are you looking at the Epstein files right now? It doesn't make sense. And so basically, I'm just like in the room and I'm just sitting there and I just want my exam. I'm like, he's like, kind of like, what did you come in for? I'm like, he's like, he's not in a forgiving tone. He's like, what did you come in for? And I'm like, I'm like, can I get my exam, basically? And so he basically says, like, what's like the last name? And so I was saying the last name, which I'm not going to say for obvious purposes. So he's just thumbing through the exams, right? It's crazy too, because he has one of the most beautiful views I've seen out of his office. But you'd think that would make, I mean, I wish it was for a more beautiful person. That's all I'm gonna say. Basically, he was just kind of thumbing through like the exams and stuff, and so pretty much he gave mine back to me a lot better than I thought I was gonna do. I got a 60. Oh my gosh! Thank goodness I got a 60. Right? Wow. Right? Absolutely mind-blowing to me. And to put in perspective, like I said, that was right here, right? That Tuesday, right? And so I was like, thank goodness, bro. I will gladly take a freaking 60. And apparently, the average for that class was a 60, right? And that makes sense because everyone I talked to about the exam got a 60. What a weird coincidence, really, right? Really interesting. So basically, I don't know. It was just evil. And like another thing to add to it was he was basically, there was like something he was talking about. I don't even remember what he was talking about, but he was basically, well, actually, no, I do remember what he was talking about because, like I kind of looked it up like a little bit after, but at the time, I was just like a little bit confused because like the way he was wording it, and I wasn't paying fully attention. But what I do remember him saying was that like this is like the whole point of the course, and if you do not know this, then I will personally make, no, he didn't say personally. And if you don't do this, or if you don't know this by the end of the semester, I will make sure that you do not pass. And he didn't say it in a joking tone. You know he wasn't joking. It was just a thing of like, I literally scoffed out loud. I was like, who does this guy think he is? Who does he think he is? Who does he think he is? Genuinely. And it's like, alright, like, oh, you're not gonna pass me. It's like, what, is the final gonna be a one question exam on that one question, and if I don't know it, oh, it's back to the GRO for me. Like, it doesn't even make sense. So, it's just like, why, bro? Like, and that's just the theme. That's just one of the main themes. It's gonna be my lesson is like, there are so many reasons to be a good person in this world. There are so many good reasons. Why do you have to be bad? I don't understand. Because we are all given different difficulties of life. We're all given different challenges, but at the end of the day, we all have the same choice, regardless of whether you're religious or not. Do you want to be a good person, or do you want to be a bad person? I don't care what you've gone through. You should be picking a good person. Sure, it doesn't cost you anything to be a bad person or a good person, but the difference between those two is that even though it doesn't cost you anything financially, what it does cost you sometimes, what it does cost you is your humanity, right? And that's just the thing of like, why in such a negative world do people want to push out negativity onto others? It doesn't make sense. And it's not just directed at the professor. There were other times where I was trying to get office hours with my linear professor, and I was just like coming in, and apparently she shares a room with some other woman who was very disrespectful, and I'm like, I haven't even done anything to you. Why are you being this rude? And it just makes me genuinely concerned. Like, what have people done? What has the world done to make someone as mad as that? What has the world done to make someone as mad as the person I was in a musical alliance with that mad? What makes these people that mad? And why don't they want to change that? It's just depressing. It really is. So, long tangent aside, right? We're going to get more into that a little bit later. But let's just finish this, because if there's one thing that I've learned from Ace Attorney, which, you know what, this is another little side tangent, I'm sorry. But basically, there's a series called Ace Attorney that I was absolutely in love with as a kid, where basically you play as this one character named Phoenix, right, who is a lawyer trying to defend his clients, right? In the third game, specifically in the last case, there's this one prosecutor named Godot, right? I'm not going to share too much information, but one quote that Godot said is, "The only time a real lawyer cries is when it's all over." That's what Hell Week and a Half was really about. You don't have time to question the morals of some guy that isn't going to matter in your future 4 years from now, most likely. You don't have time. You got to keep going. You got to keep on going until it's over. That's the thing, is like, with this entire semester, I can really like take a moment and look back and say, that was bad shit crazy. And I could really just like complain and complain and complain. And I might even break down into tears, low-key, like unironically. But the thing is that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much crying I do right now. I still got 3 weeks left of this nonsense, and I got to keep going. And specifically there, I have 5 weeks left of it. So, I mean, I wasn't going to stop everything just to take a break at that moment. We can take a break after we're done with that, right? So, basically, we get to Thursday. Okay, haven't gotten that score back, but I'm assuming that should be a 100. I don't see any reason why that shouldn't be a 100, okay? I literally fulfilled every freaking requirement. If I do not get a 100, I'm going to be questioning it pretty dang hard, because I think I went perfect on that portion, right? And then there was linear. And I was telling everybody about this. I was literally telling everybody about it. And I'm going to use the same analogy because I think it's a perfect analogy, okay? With all of this going on, I didn't even talk about radiometry. Oh my gosh, I didn't even talk about that one. Did I talk about that? I guess I didn't. Hang on. Yeah, okay, yeah. So, hang on, back up. Because for radiometry, wait, I just spoiled another class. I just spoiled another class. Oh my gosh. I'm so fucking bad. Alright. You know what? I'm not going to spoil which one that is. I've already given you enough, and I've already given you enough. Wait, no, because I already talked about it. I already talked about it, bro. You gotta be fucking kidding me. I'm so bad. I'm letting it all slip. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter at the end of the day. Alright, here we go. Who cares? There's like 8 days left of main classes anyways. Alright, so basically radiometry. That's what the unplanned pregnancy is. We're pulling out all the reveals here. But you know what? I might honestly do that. Like the last day of like classes and stuff like that, I think I might honestly just reveal what the rest of the classes are. Just because it's fun to actually reveal them. You know, it makes it look a lot more sense. It's like, how are you getting a C in Coolunk? And then you look at it and it's like, oh well, it's fucking semiconductor physics. Like no wonder why, right? But anyways, yeah, radiometry. That's the one with the take-home exam. So pretty much, the thing is that specific one. I was debating on whether opening it after all that time, right? Basically, it was like maybe like sometime, because I wanted to open it specifically like before 11 o'clock on Saturday, so that the idea was that it would take place before I had my next semiconductor and laser physics kind of. I mean, I say and laser, but they don't really cover laser stuff. But before they cover semiconductor, right? And so basically the thing is that I didn't get it to it by then. So it was kind of more around like the 12 o'clock-ish mark, right? And so basically I was still like, no, like I gotta like I'm not pushing it off. I made a promise to myself that I would get it done. And like I said, myself in a week is going to hate myself if I don't start it now. So I started it. I opened the test. And so it was a really cool test. It was really cool. Basically, it's actually kind of interesting. It's cool now that I actually have it out in the open, because now I can actually talk about what I'm doing in that. And so really quick, the first thing, which by the way, the exam one, the thing that it covered primarily was radiometers, go figure. But basically, the second exam was pretty much 2 problems. You had 3 days to complete 2 problems. You could literally use anything. Anything besides real people you were allowed to use. You couldn't use your classmates, couldn't use professors, but you were allowed to use the internet. You were allowed to talk to AI, which shows how hard that this exam was. And you were allowed to use any textbooks and anything like that, right? Basically, first problem, in short, I'm not going to go through all the details, but in summary, the first problem took me 2.5 days, and then the second one took me the rest of the time that I used, right? And so specifically, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because it started Saturday, then continued Monday, or Sunday, continued all of Monday as well, and then trickled into Tuesday, right? That was the thing. It trickled into Tuesday morning, and by the time I finished it, I only had 1 hour left to study for Let Me See, that written exam that day. I didn't study because I was preoccupied. I was fucking preoccupied, as you could probably tell by all this nonsense. So basically, oh my gosh, it's just exhausting thinking about it. So pretty much it was a lot, but I got it done. I honestly think I did well on it, right? And that's the thing, is that this, remember, 92, okay, which is fantastic, 60, which is better than I thought I would, and not including test corrections, which I'm going to talk to in a little bit, okay? Then take home, which went better than I thought. Written, which considering I didn't study, I think I did pretty well. Okay, then lab, which I think went really well, which I'll finish the thought and then I'm going to talk about the other thing. That's going to be one of the main points. Basically, then linear was Friday, right? Out of all the exams that I was taking, I was not expecting linear algebra to be the main one to kick my ass. I genuinely was not. Okay, I described it to everybody. I said, that's the equivalent of fighting 5 tigers successfully and then dying to a fucking pine cone that dropped on your head. And it's the perfect analogy. It really is, because the incredible, I mean, these things, boom, 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 they were all tough, but I somehow managed to get through all of them with not a lot of scratches, not a lot of damage, but then fucking linear came around, absolutely whooped my ass. I'm like, what the fuck? What even was that exam? And I know that's going to be the one that gets replaced and dropped by the final, because my gosh, like that was just a terrible day to be a student. I mean, genuinely. But my gosh, so I mean that's pretty much what it is. That was hell and a half week for you. So basically the other things that I'm gonna mention, okay, partway through, was that I was talking about how I finished the Tuesday one, okay, and someone was asking me like, is that for like radiometry, right? Because I made a note. I was talking like, I'm like, thank goodness I'm allowed to use AI. Like it saved me in like a lot of portions, right? And it is true. There were certain parts that I would not have been able to do without the help of some chat GPT conversations. And so basically she was like kind of talking about like the exam. So she was like, is that for the exam? And I was like, yeah. She was like, can you like give me any advice on it? And I didn't like share anything about the exam, right? Like anything straight up. I was just kind of giving her like, okay, like just this and this. I'm just saying in some aspects, expect to do this. It was very, very vague advice to the point where like she wouldn't have understood any of it until she actually opened the exam itself, right? And so what was key, and specifically this, was because on Wednesday, I was planning on going into semiconductor office hours to contest my grade, my exam grade, because like I said, I got it the day before. And so the idea behind contesting the grade is that if you can make a case on why you got a problem wrong and why you think you deserve the credit, and the TA thinks it's for a genuinely good reason, then he will give you credit back, right? That is the whole thing with that. So basically, it was the day that I was about to go into that, but she kind of pulled me aside because I was like, I didn't really know where I was going. I was kind of going towards our school's union and stuff. And then she was basically like, did I say her name? I hope I didn't say her name. I don't think I said her name. I'll check back in the footage. If I did say her name, I'm going to censor it. Let me see. But basically, she pulled me aside. She was like, Jake, like, yeah. I was like, she was kind of like just saying like, kind of almost yelling it in a way. She was like, Jake. And I'm like, wait, yeah, like, what's up? And so she was basically kind of like saying like, are you like headed to like the union and stuff like that? I was like, yeah. And so she's like, do you want to grab lunch with like kind of me and my friends and stuff? I'm like, yeah, sure, like why not, right? So I kind of like go over, and the reason why I bring it up is because I think it is partially, I mean, I think we're good friends, like just like normally, just kind of as we go about life. But I think a reason why was specifically because I talked about radiometry a little bit, and so or at least gave her like kind of like the vague advice, right? And so basically, it was crazy because we were talking about semiconductor. And so pretty much for that, what made it really interesting was that those were the two people in my major that were at that table were some of the smartest people that I personally knew within my major. And they got somehow worse scores than me. And I was honestly shocked. I was like, huh? Like, really? Like, because y'all are, like, really smart. I'm like, what the frick? Because, like, they got exam scores I'm not going to tell you, but basically enough to where they would need to get a 78 / around a 72 on the final in order to just pass the class, right? And so that stressed me out because I'm like, well, if those are two of the smartest people I know in this major, and like, where does that put me, right? Where does that put me? But we did the math. I think I need around, I believe at this stage, consider if worst case scenario I go in, or if I went in, sorry, worst case scenario I went in and I didn't get any credit back, then I would end up getting, at the time, I would need a 52 or a 53 in order to pass the class. I'm like, okay, that is a lot better than I thought it was going to be, thank goodness. Because, I mean, considering I got a 60 on the last test, it's scary. It's really scary. I'm going into uncharted territory here, and I really don't know how I should feel. So, basically, the thing is that I was just, like, really uneasy about it, but it eased my mind a little bit, okay? I'm going to specifically put in here what I would have named episode 87, because a lot of these I don't really, I mean, I know what I probably had a good name for them at the time, but since time has passed, obviously I don't really think of a lot of things, right? But specifically with 64 through, or what is it, 80 through 89, I have the perfect name for episode 87, right? What color should I make it? I could probably make it one of the blues. I'll probably make it light blue. Work, BHOH. Okay, because that was my note that day. I was about to go into the office hours after I was studying. I was trying to see what I can get back credit for. and I basically just said time to work the HOH. For everybody who doesn't know what that is, in Big Brother, that is a Big Brother term. The head of household is basically the person who is in power for the week. And the idea is that the person in power for the week basically determines how the rest of the week, it sets the pace for how the rest of the week is going to go. And the reason why it's called working the HOH is because everybody is kissing their ass, right? And basically trying to get the HOH to do what they want. And so basically it really is just like, it's working the HOH a little bit. It's not really like using, right? Because he's not the guy you kind of use. Like, he was very much the guy who was like, he was just like kind of generous. He was being kind of lenient with it. Like, I was not, like I said, I wasn't even going back in the, oh yeah, I didn't even mention, yeah, the office hours. So with the test corrections, right? Basically, the thing is that I don't know if I mentioned it, honestly. It's getting a little late, right? But basically, the thing is that I went in, I was honestly not even trying to get test corrections. I didn't even know test corrections were a thing. I was just wanting to get information on like a topic. And so basically, not only did I get that, which is pretty based, but basically, sorry, my jaw is acting up right now. Basically, what made it really cool was that I wasn't even going in for credit, but then he gave me credit back on the exam. He boosted me, essentially because I was able to clarify myself and clarify certain problems. He boosted me from a 73 to an 81.5. You gotta say that is a pretty significant difference. That's almost a whole letter grade, right? So basically, I'm going in there. I'm not like trying to use him. It's just like a funny way of saying like, okay, like let's just like make the situation a little bit better on ourselves. You know, that's really what I'm trying to say when I say it. And so I go in there. There are like 12 to 14 people and only 1 hour, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm not gonna get through it. I'm not gonna get through it. This is so bad. I'm not gonna get through it. I arrived too late. I arrived like 10 minutes just to like, because I didn't want to be the first person that came in there and then like the TA would just be bashing in, because like he's like, it's kind of the thing of like, you gotta approach him the right way, otherwise he's not gonna take it well, right? And so basically he was saying, well, what shocked me to my core, my very core, was basically, to put in perspective, the office hours that I appeared for, it was pretty much right after we got the exams back, right? So I want to say it was maybe this date, probably. Monday of the 5th week that I was gone for one take. Basically, the thing is that regarding that date right there, that was pretty much the first date that he was opening test corrections for. And so I was just kind of like, all right, like, I mean, I didn't know that. I thought it would just be a thing of like, as long as we had the test, then it would be available, okay? But I get there, and he's talking about concepts from the first exam, and he says, just so you know, by the way, I'm not going to cover anybody or do test corrections for anybody for the second exam, because this is the last day to do ones for the first exam, right? And I'm like, still, so like, people had all this time to care. And what made me mad specifically, what set me off a little bit, was that he was talking about, he's like, well, you're all here because you care about your grades. Okay, let me get to something straight, because yes, we do all care about our grades, and yes, we all should care about our grades. But let me say just really quickly, there is, even if it wasn't my intention to go in, there is a very big difference in caring about your grade right after you get the exams versus the last possible day. If you're doing test corrections on the last possible day they're available to you, do you really care about your grade? Like, I'm sorry, like, but yeah, it was basically the thing of like, okay, like it's not the worst, it's not the end of the world, but what makes it annoying is that I'm already there, I'm already like in the spirit, I'm in the mindset of like going out, and I'm like, keep in mind, I'm interrupting my hell and a half week to go out and actually do the things that I want to do, right? I'm basically just trying to get credit back, right? That's all I want to do. I just want to get it out of the way, rip off the band-aid so that the rest of it could just be studying. But no, now, because of that, I got to go in. But apparently, I was trying to, quote-unquote, work the HOH when really it was just someone else was the head of household that week. It was just ridiculous. So now, basically, what that means is that I got to go in tomorrow, and I got to... That's not how that works. Hang on. Now what happens, let me rephrase that. I gotta go in tomorrow and then go in and justify my test corrections, which this is not good, because specifically the problem is that now for reference, there are about like 70 students in the class. there are only 4 office hours, okay? There are 4 office hours. If I don't get in within one of these times, within one of those office hours, then I'm not going to get any credit back. And I know I can get easy credit back. I know for sure, guaranteed, worst case scenario, I should at least be able to get from 60 to 63, which is already a big difference in that class when every exam is worth 30% of your grade, or at least every midterm. So basically, it's crazy. It's absolutely insane. There's a lot I gotta do tomorrow. But before we get to tomorrow, we just gotta cap off everything that we've missed. Okay, finish the actual thought for once. And then we see, maybe, we'll go orange. To cap it off, 90 to 98 is going to be called Finally. Because for the first time in 90 days, I was actually able to fucking rest. This was actually genuinely the one time where I still had work to do, but I actually was able to make time for my interests. It was crazy. Absolutely insane. That one guy that I was working on the song with, excluding the other guy that sent me a death threat, I encountered him on campus, and I basically said, like, kind of like, he's like, hey, like, when would you be able to come in and do the song? I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to do it in the studio session because of me joining that one guy, but basically, like, I can definitely get it to you by Wednesday, right? I can aim for it. And he's like, it's like, you don't have to stress about it, like, if you can't do it. It's like, no, like, I'll try it, right? And so he was, like, really insistent on it. Usually when I kind of do that stuff and I say, like, oh, I'll have it done by Wednesday, I'll be honest, I'm not the type of guy to have it done by Wednesday. Certainly not the type of guy to have it done by Tuesday. But since I had nothing going on, I was able to get it done by Tuesday. And I'm like, wow, what a concept. I actually have free time to do the things that I want to do. What a freaking concept, right? So it was finally able to wind down just a little bit, okay? I still had stuff going on, even up until Wednesday, right? Just until the freaking very end. I'm not even gonna lie. And I'm still not done. But yeah, you know what? There was one thing in there. Tuesday, and I'm gonna be completely frank with you. Because basically I gotta, hopefully, I wonder like if I can like sit in my chair for a little bit. Oh, low battery mode. Oh, I'm hoping. Hopefully it's not crazy low battery. Dude, I really filmed the whole freaking movie on this thing. Dang, bro. 1 minute 49. Obviously, like I said, that doesn't account for like stuff at the beginning, but that is still pretty crazy. Okay. So let me put the camera back. Okay, well, hang on. Let me put the camera back where it was. Okay, buddy. You're working my last nerve. All right. So if I put the chair here, how does this look on camera? I feel like you could see that, probably, right? I don't know. I can't see anything. Okay. I feel like you might be able to see the top of my head, so, well, if you can't, I'm sorry, but basically, I feel like you should be able to. Maybe you could see, like, this. So basically, the thing is that for Tuesday, right, the final project for lab, which that's the thing of, like, basically, because 3 of my classes have finals, and then 3 of the other classes just have final projects. One of, like, the lab section that I was talking about, basically, they wanted to they randomly sprung it on Tuesday, of basically, like, kind of like, hey, like, we're going in the lab to do this, right? And so it's basically the thing that's like, there are 6 people in a project, right? And we all have different responsibilities. I specifically am responsible for providing the derivations of the actual experiment that we're doing, right? Which derivations basically means equations and kind of like stuff that we're supposed to explain for a little bit. And so basically, the thing is that regarding those derivations, first of all, it didn't require me to be in lab. But the second thing is that basically, specifically for that day, the second thing, I'm not going to say the specifics of the personal things, right? But the second thing is the idea that, after all that, I mean, like, I'm not really, like, the type of person to kind of, like, join you in the start of an experiment, as crazy as it sounds. I work a lot better when I come in midway through an experiment and then you tell me what's going on, and I'm like, all right, now I know what I can contribute to the group, right? So basically, it was a thing of like, I could have, I didn't respond. I really should have communicated better. But to be fair, they were basically like, we're going into the lab at 5, right? They didn't plan it beforehand. They were literally like the day of, we're going into the lab at 5, and I was like, that is not fair to me. I'm sorry, like it isn't fair to put me through all this nonsense and then Tuesday to say, hey, like I know you basically, and I know they didn't know my schedule, but to say that, like, hey, even though your original day was looking like you only had to go in from 11 to 12:15, now your day is going to be going from 11 to 8. I'm like, no, it's freaking not, and I'll tell you why, because that is a whole work day. If you want to specify that, you got to give me some, like, what's the right word? You gotta, I don't know the word I was going to say, but you got to give me, like, a disclaimer or something, right? So basically, no, I did not go in that day. And I'll like, anytime they want me to go in, like this week, I will gladly go in this week, do whatever they want me to do, right? Because I am pretty much available for the first time. I'm available throughout like this next week and stuff. And I gladly will do anything, but it was just that thing of like, just give me a break. And so I just took that entire week off just to recover. And so that brings us to here. So, well, first, before we cover what we have to get to tomorrow, which I can't believe I got to do all this, I'm back into it tomorrow. Thanksgiving break was nice. I can't believe I did all of that just to get 4 days off, bro. In the freaking way. Alright, so basically, the plan tomorrow is already looking chaotic because essentially, it looks like I gotta wake up, I gotta apply for internships. I actually gotta start because I'm getting some stuff on LinkedIn that's saying I'm a top applicant for this and this. I don't know what that means of like if they just do that, if they just say like, oh, you're a top applicant, when really it's just like, just apply, just get a job, little bro. I don't know if it's like that or if it's like something else, but I mean, they say I'm a top applicant and that means like I'm interested, right? So basically, there's that, right? Okay, then second is basically, I gotta go into a bunch of classes, right? Just one after the other, okay? And then after those classes, okay, I gotta go in, retake a quiz that I have no clue what is even going on remotely in that quiz, right? And then afterwards, I gotta go into semiconductor office hours and justify why I should get higher than a 60. And then after that, then I gotta go about the rest of my day, and I gotta work on stuff to be ahead. And it's basically just a matter of getting all the little assignments done and out of the way so I can focus on the final projects and focus on studying for finals. So with all of that out of the way, what did we learn across these 9 weeks? My gosh, dude, I just need a second to lay down. I need a second to use the bathroom is what I freaking need. My gosh. Oh, frick. All right. So what did we learn? Okay. Number one, like I said, it costs you nothing to be a good person. It doesn't cost you anything. We all have our hardships. We all go through battles. They're all different types of battles, and they're all different levels of difficulty of battles. But regardless of what you go through, it doesn't change the fact that you have the choice to be a good person. Make that choice. Because if you choose to be a bad person, all you are doing is adding to someone else's battles. All you're doing is actually increasing the other chances of other people being bad. It costs you nothing to be a good person. That's one. Number two, okay, is draw the line wherever you feel necessary. If you feel unsafe by someone, draw the line. If you have been overworked and underpaid by someone, draw the line. That's number 2. And then number 3 is going to be the fact that just because it looks like someone is a certain way or acts like a certain way or has a certain amount of time, that doesn't mean that they do. And it doesn't mean that you should look at them and say, you have all this time. You have all this time, why aren't you doing it? Well, I assure you it's for a good reason. But what matters is that lesson number 4, I don't usually do a 4th lesson, I'll do it. Lesson number 4, what matters is that you do it. That's an important thing. Because last semester, what I chose was that after I didn't do it for a while, I just never got back to it that season. But this one is like, all I needed was 1 session to get back everything on its feet. Even if it was the whole length of a movie, you could probably watch, like, I can name a bunch of movies that you could probably watch in the time that you could do this instead. But what matters is that if you fall off of something, it doesn't matter how many times you fall. It's about how many times you get back up. And what matters is that I'm back up. So it's time to go back down, and then it's time for some sleep. Because I am tired. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Is that loud enough? Nah. No, that's not even close. Nope. 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 Come on, I can't even clap, right? Oh my gosh, this is how you know I'm rusty. Nope. Nah. That's good. Cut. How long is this video? I'm curious. 1:58. Damn.